Hello, everyone. I'm Lillian Gina Quinones, your High School Theater PLC lead, and welcome to February webinar topic number 1. We're going to be talking about learning and rehearsal spaces today and some monologue strategies. So let's get started. All right, the first place I want to start is to take a moment to, I've been reading about the stress cycle lately. And one of the things that is important for us to do is to kind of interrupt the stress cycle by separating ourselves from the fast part of our day and slowing ourselves down. And I think it's so important for us to do that as grown-ups, but equally or even more important for our students to have these opportunities in their day to learn how to slow down, to learn how to center themselves, to learn how to warm up, to learn how to get out of their heads. Like Viola Spolin says, get out of your head into your space and await the invisible stranger. So as we move into kind of this learning moment, whatever time of day or evening you're watching this, I'd like to give you permission to just be, to become a learner and to become the sponge and not the doer, to become one with your space, to take note of where you are in your body. Where does your tension exist in your body? And take a moment to kind of breathe into those tension spots and release them. Okay. So, as a guided practice, I have found that we have two kind of clear paths we can lead the warm-ups, as we often do, because we are facilitators of the space in our classroom. Or we can participate in the warm-ups and find resources that will help guide us all in a collective warm-up. And I will be perfectly honest with you and say, that's where I'm at a lot. That's where I am often in this work and in this practice, especially in a virtual space. We spend so much time sitting down, our bodies get stressed. And so I find that it's really fun for me and really kind of liberating for me to do the warm-ups with the students as much as I can. So all of that to say that I found this really lovely video, one of many, I think, that, YouTube is a world of resources. Once we have done this, like I said earlier, interrupting of the stress cycle, gotten into our bodies, become one with the space, and relaxed ourselves, it's a really great moment to set intentions. And I think we have to come with intentions as teachers. We always do. We come with lesson plans. We come with, outcomes and things that we want out of the time with our students. But inviting them in to the intention setting process, I think is really powerful for them to start to become owners of their learning, for them to start to articulate what they want out of their time in the acting studio or the classroom today. In what ways do they want to grow? Or in what ways do they want to let go? Or in what ways do they want to lean in? Giving them language, helping them wrap their heads around, how do I intention set for my work as an actor? Like Viola Davis says, we're creating humans on stage or on screen. We're building humans from the ground up. And the best way to do that is to learn how to set intentions. So I'm going to stop talking for a second and let you set an intention for your time with this video today, and I'm going to set mine. Okay, wonderful. I would like to share with you some of our learning and rehearsal spaces at my school. Everybody's space is different. We've got all kinds of playing spaces, from theaters, big theaters, to small theaters, to black boxes, to cafetoriums, to classrooms. I know across the state, across the country, schools are going to be in very different places in terms of where you have available for you to play. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the spaces that I personally have available, and how I utilize those. And of course, you can take what serves you and toss what doesn't, based on what realistically you have to work with, right? I was a teacher on a cart for many, many years. So when I finally got a classroom, it was really exciting. So I have a classroom now, and it's really a lovely space. That's this one right here in the middle photo. I often have very large classes, so I have a lot of desks in there. I have to be really creative about how to make space. I love circles. Circles are my jam. Socratic seminars and getting up on our feet, anything that gets us communicating with each other like humans and gives us space to move our bodies. That's how I'm going to move my room around. I rearrange it often. This photo right here is our theater. We have a 675 seat house. It was built in 2013. So it's a fairly updated space. It's a very nice place to play, but it is a very overwhelmingly sized space to build a set in. So you've got your pluses and your minuses for the big, beautiful stage. The challenge is, I gotta fill this, I gotta make a world on this thing every time, we produce, especially our big musicals. So we usually don't fill up the house. The theater is full for school functions, but for our theater productions, we close off the mezzanine level. We consolidate all of our audience members down in the floor seats in the bottom half. Once we fill the bottom half, we overflow into the mezzanine. So on average, for our spring musical, on any given night, we maybe have 250 people in the house. So it's a lot of people for a high school show, but doesn't always feel full because it's such an overwhelmingly large house. So we, try to get everybody in one space so that the kids on stage can feel the energy. I think that's really important, that they feel the energy from their audience. We also have a scene shop, a chorus room, a dance studio, and the room we use the most, the black box. Hands down, the black box theater. It is the most versatile space. We use it for just about everything. Well, not everything, but just about lots of things. We have a poetry slam that happens in there, and we have the IB solo theater projects and collaborative projects that happen in there, and acting and improv classes and all of those things that happen in the black box. And we keep it very, very low tech. I wanted to say we keep it low tech on purpose. I think that's partly true. Sometimes we talk about upgrading some of our technology in the room, and I think we will. But for now, it's a fairly low tech space. You don't run a whole bunch of cues in there. It is pretty basic, but it works. It works really nicely in the top. I guess it's your right-hand side corner. That was an IB solo theater project that happened in that space, and the student devised a solo piece. They set up the furniture the way they wanted it, and then had a kind of audience feedback moment. So the audience was able to give some real-time feedback as they edited their show for their final submission. So it's a really great space. And kind of the big words that came to me as I was putting this together were simplicity, open space, and circles. I love a circle. Okay. All right. So today I am going to talk a little bit about how I have approached the monologue performances in my classes. Typically, all of my acting classes do some level of monologuing during their semester or their school year. This process that I'm going to talk about, I use with my advanced acting group, acting 2 and 3. So a little overview of the process is they've learned how to warm up, they have learned how to analyze, they have characterization exercises. This is usually a kind of a late in the game thing so that they can incorporate a lot of what they've learned throughout the school year. And it also gives them a chance to get a little bit more mature. So anytime after January is usually when I'm doing the monologues. The performance itself is very low tech. It's in the black box. We have some acting boxes, some chairs if they want to use those. For the most part, they're standing up on their feet. They're performing for a room filled with their peers who are also going to take a turn doing their monologue. And we work really hard to create a mutually supportive environment so that students feel comfortable leaning in and really performing their monologues full out. And I think that's not super hard with our theater kids. They have so much love to give, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about that. But 3 things I wanted to talk about in terms of monologues were choosing a monologue, rehearsal strategies, and grading performances. These are adapted, these 7 elements from this. You will have access to this presentation. It'll be in the list of resources that we post in the DOE platform. This link down here is where you can read the entire article that I adapted these guidelines from. And what I like about these guidelines is that they're checklistable. You can make a beautiful little checklist, either digital or on paper for your students, that serve as a map for their choosing process and their preparation process. Okay, so these first checklist items, castability, relationship, conflict, and clarity. Oh, this was so much gold when I found it because I thought, oh, this is perfect. When they start going through the books or the online resources or the plays that they want to pull a monologue from, I get to ask them, is this a monologue where there's relationship? Are you talking to one specific individual? Or does this monologue have a conflict? Okay, great. Check it off your box, right? Make sure that there's castability, that the language is colloquial, it's a comfortable fit for who you are. I do, side note, give them a little bit of flexibility in terms of age range in the classroom setting. And then conflict and clarity. Before we even get down to the nitty-gritty of the analysis, upon first read, is it clear what your character wants? If you have all of these 4 things, you got a good monologue. And then the other 3 are more about the performance aspect of the monologue. So talking to them about beats, little things like, does your monologue have an end? I don't want you to say end scene. I want to know that it reached a point of finality, a sense of conclusiveness that, oh, okay, yep, that was the ending, right? And then owning your space. So these are 3 elements that you can chunk into little mini units within your big unit or mini lessons within your big unit so that they serve as a map, but you can kind of decide as the instructor how deeply you want to go with these and how much practice you want to give each one of them. So let's talk about choosing a monologue, right? This is the first 4 guidelines: the castability, relationship, conflict, and clarity. Like I said, I like to make sure that they have the checklist as they're looking through resources and deciding what monologue they're going to do. This is always the thing. Where are they going to find it? The kids are like, where am I going to find it? Do I just look wherever? Okay. It's teachable, teaching them how to really sit and take their time to find a monologue that really fits. So I think it's important and goes without saying that we want to have a variety of books, plays, online resources available for our students, but also we can provide opportunities for them to devise original work. I think kids are so creative and their lives are so rich and their imaginations are so deep that there are a lot of opportunities for them to write original pieces as well. And it just kind of depends on what your vibe is, right? Because I tend to lean towards using devised work as its own unit. Like I'll teach a devising unit and save it for then, and challenging them to find monologues in this process so that they're, getting to know some works that they maybe had not come in contact with before. But it depends. It depends on what your preference is. One thing that I think is true is that representation matters. And I wrote this question here: the world is a stage, but is our stage the world? Do we have stories? Do we have works? Do we have playwrights? Do we have monologue books that represent the world in which we live? We live in a beautiful, colorful, diverse world. Is that represented on your shelves? And if you look at your shelves and you say, it could be more broad, it could be more diverse, it could be more colorful, it could be more representative of various groups and experiences and cultures, then that becomes a really great opportunity for you as an educator as well to kind of add those resources for your students. Another thing is that you want to give them ample time for choosing and carve out a moment for them to confer. So I have a student conference with each student that's choosing a monologue. I talk to them about why they've chosen it, make sure that they understand the how that monologue has fit into those check boxes. And they don't get to start rehearsing until I've approved their monologue. And then, obviously, before getting on their feet, students should dedicate time to analysis. So analysis happened. They did a really amazing job. They have scored their monologues and written down all their beats and tactics. And they are ready to get on their feet and go. It's time for rehearsal. Okay. What I have learned, and I could be telling you things you already know, so forgive me if I am. But what I have learned is that I have to help get it in their heads that a monologue is not really a solo performance. Even though I'm up there by myself, I'm really not up there by myself. It's actually a scene with an imaginary person, and that imaginary person is there with me. That person is dynamic. That person is responding. That person's energy needs to be present. And sometimes in a monologue, the other person is myself, or the other person is a divine high above type presence, that's fine. Either way, the establishment of relationship has to happen. And I find that that's a little bit tough for kids. So I anchor them in relationship. First, they have a partner that they go through the whole monologue process with, that they're able to establish a really close-knit relationship with. And they learn how to do their monologue with that real person, with their partner. They share rehearsal time. If there are pauses in the monologue, for example, the other partner can say the lines. They might not be written, but they can write them. What would your partner be saying in this moment? What are you responding to? Why are you deciding to say that next line after that pause? What lives in that moment? So that they can kind of develop that cellular energy of responding truthfully to their partner in that moment. After they get it in their bones, after they have gotten off book with their partner, then take the partner out of the equation, but not before then. It seems to make a difference. Some things that help in the rehearsal process for warm-ups and games to deepen relationships between partners are the repetition exercises, mirror exercises, the moment before improv. So much fun, so much fun. What happened right before this? Improv, and then go into your monologue. At first, they're like, I don't know what to say. And then all of a sudden, something clicks, and they have like a whole play before their monologue even starts. It's so much fun to see that wake up in them. A really powerful strategy. And then about halfway through the process, they should probably revise their analysis because they're going to have made discoveries about their beats, about their tactics that maybe they want to change. A couple of keywords. Dynamic. Rehearsal time should be moving all the time. There should be tools and things. If they're like, I'm done. No, you're not. Try this. I finished. Okay, here's your next job. Dynamic. The students should have daily goals. We want to try to avoid idle time and supervise. So we stay on our feet. We move about the space. Sometimes we have these repetition exercises happening in front of the class and other students are watching. Sometimes everybody's doing the mirror exercise all at once. Sometimes they're running lines, and sometimes we're doing a little bit and we're going in and out. But it's staying dynamic and we're giving constant feedback. We're doing our best to keep track of what our feedback was because our brains can only hold so much. But we go back and we make sure that they've corrected, that they've taken the notes, that they've grown and moved on in their process. Rehearsal. I don't know what the timeline is. I used to teach every other day. Now I teach every day. So, on an every other day schedule, this could be weeks. I think it'll be different with every group and with every teacher. A really quick section here on grading performances. I use the free monologue performance rubric on the Theater Folk website. I found it so great and useful that I didn't have to change anything because I thought each one of these categories was so great. I've used it several times. I have students do also with their partner like peer feedback. So they'll use the rubric to give their partner feedback about what they saw and where they think they are in their rubric and where they need to grow. So I like to use the rubric again for at risk of sounding repetitive, the rubric, in my opinion, should be dynamic. It should be something that is reviewed with students early in the process, something that they practice with so that it gets into their brains and they know exactly what's expected of them. I like to use video monologues and have rubric practice also with the full class and discuss, okay, where did you place them on the rubric and why? Assume nothing. So I assume nothing. I do not assume that my kids will know how to dress. I do not assume that my kids will know that they have to tell me their name. I do not assume that my kids will know how to behave in an audience. Some of them come with that program automatically downloaded, and some of them need me to tell them exactly what those performance day expectations are. We talk about dress code. That is totally individual, I think, to the teacher. I've done different things. If I'm videotaping and it's going to go out to the public, sometimes I'll do like, blacks, we're all wearing black, or sometimes it's just come dressed as your best self or dress like you're going to an audition or interview. But whatever it is, I tell them. Go over slating, audience expectations, and how to give positive feedback. In my experience, things like expectations need to be delivered in a mini lesson format. So in some way that it's not just me listing the expectations and moving on, but us sitting with them together as a group. And in some cases, if this is a preference of yours in terms of classroom management, you may want to come up with those expectations together as a group. You can do that as well. But carve out the time to make sure that everybody's in agreement about what those expectations are. I think that's really important. Okay, so I am almost at the end, but I would like to show you a sample virtual performance. I'm going to show an excerpt for the sake of time today in this presentation, but I will post it, on the DOE platform where we're having our discussions, and you should also be able to link it directly from the PowerPoint presentation. But this is an original device piece. This was part of a devising unit, and this is a group of young women that devised a piece about their personal experiences. So here we go.
Sometimes I wonder what my most noticeable feature is. My lips, my eyes, my nose, my hair. When people look at me, what do they see? Do they see my intelligence? My insecurities? Do they understand that I have dreams? To some, I'm just my skin. I am just the kinks in my hair and the dip in my hips. To some, I have no substance. They don't see me. Do you see me? Does my name not hold any meaning? Am I destined to be another hashtag? Is my life not my own? These questions float in my mind, clashing with the tasks I'm supposed to be prioritizing, but sometimes it's hard to memorize definitions when the validity of my existence is being questioned, when I'm being targeted. Sometimes it's easy to forget that my life is important. Sometimes it's easy to forget how to breathe.
What do you see when you see me?
All right. So that brings me to the end of this presentation. Thank you for spending the last almost 40 minutes with me, wherever and whenever you are. I hope that this was of value for you. I invite you to engage on the Godot platform. I'll have little discussion questions for you there. We can chit chat. You can invite your friends. We can use it kind of as a safe space to talk through some of our strategies and challenges and all of that. You will also find the accompanying resources. So some resources on finding monologues and all of that stuff will be on there. And then if you want to connect with me individually, you can reach me at liliangina.quino. They ran out of letters, so the rest of my last name is not there. So quino@apsk12.org. All right. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.